I'm elevating. Hi, I'm Ray of Sunshine, and I am elevating. I am in the upper realm of my sanctuary today. And usually, if you've seen my previous videos, I'm way down here somewhere in whatever area of my sanctuary that I'm in at the time. But I'm going to give you a little introduction if you haven't already met some of my friends here in my sanctuary. The videos 1 and 2 back in my earliest series gives a free tour of my entire sanctuary. Now they're free. They might not always be free once I'm famous, but you can get it there. And the significance of, for me, in this series of having before videos is that I wouldn't have these after videos if it wasn't for the before videos. And the advantage for you is to see the progression. What we're going through, or where I'm taking you, is the progression from the old world to the new world and what that looks like from my perspective. So I'm in the upper realms of my sanctuary here, which include characters like Aurora Borealis. These are some sculptures that I've made along the way. Aldo, who flies around in here, and Aldo, you may know if you saw one of those. He's in one of those 1 through 6 video collections. Aldo is named after somebody that I used to know named Aldo, and Aldo used to be high a lot in a very different way than this guy is, but he represents being high, and so he's over here in this high vibrational section of my sanctuary. I have my wind chimes, and of course the wind chimes represent the breath of life. From our perspective here on Earth, wind is way up there, just like the eagles. And so I'll be talking about, and I talk about a lot of these guys in a lot of my previous videos, as well as I pulled this one along to show you. There's another one of my stump sculptures, who is another bird. I have a lot of birds and a lot of flying creatures everywhere. Here's one of my favorites. This one here used to belong to my best friend Sid, and he loved birds. And birds, for me, are messengers. If you look at my logo on the thumbnails that I have for this presentation, and well, for all my videos, it's a bird. And there might be clues for something for you in there. But this guy here still doesn't have a name. This guy or this girl or whatever. So I'm looking for a name for this character, and I'm recommending it to you to contact me with a suggestion for a name, just to give you an idea about doing something different, to discover something different about you, because that's the energy that we're in. I explain a lot of that. I repeat myself a lot in many of the previous videos, so I'm not going to repeat the whole thing. But what I do every day is something different, to discover something different. This morning, I wasn't actually on my way to do something different yet, but I was driving down the highway, and this is a little bit on a more traumatic note, but as I was driving down the highway at 65 miles an hour, there's a couple of cars pulled over coming up and something in the road, and as I got closer and swung over, the guy in the first car is coming this way, and he had hit a deer that was in the road, and he's just in tears, and I couldn't actually see that because I was driving too fast, but he was devastated, and so was I, and it was a difficult moment. And then of course when I came home, I had to read my spirit guide cards about deer, and deer represents gentleness, which is a reminder that I keep giving myself about being gentle during this transitionary time, during this time of transformation, which is a transformation that we're all going through, going from the old world energy to the new world energy, and we don't know exactly what that's going to entail, what the new world is going to be, because we're all in the process of creating that. But for me, it's a matter of learning, being inspired, finding ways to smooth out the transition, and that's what this whole video series is about. So the format is going from old world to new world. There are many examples of that in some of the previous videos, talking about driving through the darkness, decades or thousands of years in darkness and coming to the light, which is the area that we're in right now. So those are some of the kind of things I'm going to be talking about. And during that process, I'm going from darkness to light. I'm discovering things about me, and those are many of the hidden messages that are in some of the previous videos. The previous videos are an opportunity, especially if you go way back to the beginning, and that's the way it was designed to be viewed, starting from the beginning and moving on through. And you'll notice that the beginning, there's not a whole lot of beginning videos, just like there's not a whole lot of, well, the way I see it anyway, there's not a whole lot of time span in the development of the new world energy that we're in, which has preceded us, but so this number 5 series is the transition from the old world to the new world. I talked about, well, you can go look at my earlier videos and just see many examples, but those are there for you to discover how you deal with discovering different. Because it's going to be a discovery process, and it's going to be a different process. And the reason that's occurring is because we're in a different energy. And it's a matter of getting used to and being exposed to different vibrations. And we have different on the horizon, like we ain't never seen before, so it's a matter of getting used to different by doing something different. So what you might want to consider, for example, is doing something different, like send me a suggestion for a name of my little friend here. And who knows what might develop from that. Or you could send this video to some character who it would be out of your character to send it to. Who knows what might develop from that. Maybe you'll give the opportunity to someone who wouldn't otherwise normally have the opportunity to discover something different. So that's an easy way. That's an easy suggestion. And, I repeat that on a lot of my videos, and I do that for a reason, because different is happening. And it's a matter of getting used to different, because we're creatures of habit. And so for me, it's a matter of developing a new habit. Another example, and I haven't spoken about this example in the past. I've spoken about a lot of other things that I've never spoken about to other people, including in yesterday's video, and I'm going to be doing more and more of that, because to me this is about being vulnerable and discovering myself by doing something different. So I'm going to tell you something different that happened in my life as well, because as you may know, I am a Gemini, and you would know that if you had looked at any of my previous videos. But Gemini, that may or may not mean something to you. Gemini typically, is an air sign. So typically they're described as being talkative, gregarious. And I was really not all that way for most of my life. And I finally figured out, I was contemplating on this on my fishing trip yesterday. Did you hear about my tuna trip? That was yesterday, and that's on yesterday's video. We had an awesome tuna trip. So anyway, I was going over this in my mind thinking, I've never really fit that description of being the talkative type. And I talk a lot to myself. I've always loved my own company, and I go into my imagination often. And I spent a lot of time there for a good part of my life. I have examples of that and stories about that in a lot of those previous videos too. But I was not really the outgoing type, and these days my efforts to do something different, to discover something different about me, is a matter of going out and meeting people, and I've introduced myself to people floating around while I'm in my kayak out in the middle of the pond, and done all kinds of different or maybe crazy things, however you want to look at it, and those examples are in the previous video series. But I do something different every day to discover something different. And what I'm in the process of doing now is expressing myself. I realized, as I was contemplating this on the boat yesterday, that as a child, I was exposed to well, I had lots of cousins, but I had one. There was one family in particular that there were a whole lot of children, and their mother was of the opinion that children should be seen and not heard. And I spent a lot of time over there because I liked them and we got along really good. But whenever we were around in the mother's presence, I would hear children are meant to be seen and not heard. And I clamped up. And I went through a good part of my life being clamped up. And, that developed as time went on, and then it became stunted again. And I have a whole big presentation on that in my pilot video, which will be in a box on the side of my head at the end of this video. So, it was traumatizing, and I went back into my shell, and then I've been learning to come out of my shell again. And that's what this whole video progression shows. Which is a metaphor for the energy that we're in, going from the old world energy to the new world energy. So I'm recommending do something different to discover something different about you. Send this video to some character that would be out of your character to send it to, and send me an email with a suggestion, with a name suggestion for my little friend here. Catch you in the next video, and until then, it is playtime. Create you.